the ERP implementation. So I'm also leading the ERP implementation as well. And then prior to Away, I was Chief Operating Officer for Casper in a very, very similar role and responsibility. And then prior to Casper, I was a VP of a supply chain, leading the end-to-end supply chain function for Walmart e-commerce. And then before Walmart, I also had leadership position with several other retailers, including Chief Supply Chain Officer for Shopko. At that time, it's a $4 billion mass retailer, as well as Divisional VP for Inventory Management at the Walgreens, and then Ahold Delhaize. So I've been in retail industry with more than 15 years experience in different leadership positions. So that's kind of really my background. So then I'll just go direct to the topic. So as you all know, really COVID-19 has caused a lot of supply chain issues. Really, for many companies, maybe it's really disruption, right? And the main issue you are seeing today is first, you're seeing the commodity and the semiconductor shortage across all the board, right? And this is not only in one industry. Obviously, some industry can be impacted deeper, but the science probably a little bit light. But it's really across every business you have some kind of really impact by COVID. And the second, what you're seeing, the biggest issues you are seeing today is really transportation congestion. This is really from both the domestic transportation because of the driver shortage, but then also because of the port congestion, right? So you probably hear a lot of things happening at Long Beach. You have a lot of vessels sitting waiting for more than a week, and usually it's 24 hours. And causing a lot of the product not be able to be on the shelf in many, many retailers. And the third one I would say is really labor shortage, right? So regardless if you are a manufacturer or you are a retail, you definitely, it's been struggling to maintain a normal operation hour. It's just because of the labor has been so scarce, and then and also in some region, it's probably more severe than the other. And I can tell you that Nashville has been very, very, Nashville's top market has been very, very constrained in terms of labor. And you have in some part of Georgia, Omaha, and then also in California, and then also in Pennsylvania. So labor shortage has been crippled a lot of companies in terms of how they can get back to a normal operation as well as a production. So that's why you see in the shortage of the supply as well. And when we talk about all these major supply issues, a lot is really, and obviously COVID play a huge, huge role, but then obviously the other thing is really, it's amplified by a couple of other things I want to talk about. First is really the lean principle every company try to operate throughout many, many years, right? So everybody is focused on cost efficiency and optimization. And when you look at the lean, then you really want to determine, okay, I'm going to outsource all of the product in China, in the South Asian country, is because the cost is much lower. But then now you look at the lead time, it's much, much longer compared to if you have a domestic production, right? So so that's number one. Secondly, everybody is really over-reliant on just-in-time manufacturing because you want to keep your inventory is really, really low. You don't build a lot of safety stock, and you don't build an actual buffer in terms of when you see the interruption or disruption like a COVID causing us, right? And I think the third one is really the dependency on single country and the source, right? You usually don't really have a multiple supplier, and even when I work for Walmart, we don't really have a lot of a supplier for one product. So maybe at the most, you probably have a second, but still during the pandemic, a lot of a disruption is really caused by the supplier cannot get enough labor, then you don't really have an alternative way to get the product. So dependency on the single country and the source causing a lot of issues like during the pandemic. That's why you're seeing a lot of short of supply. And then the last one, I would say, is really the lack of visibility across the global supply chain. Even your supply chain is getting more and more complicated, but you don't have the visibility into the end-to-end supply chain in terms of where's the product at, right? In terms of it's at the ocean, at the port, or at the rail. So you don't have a full visibility end-to-end in terms of how you see your supply chain, not alone, and not even to mention about how you can proactively manage your complexity, because you don't even have a visibility, right? So those are the key, the several factors that amplify the impact that COVID has been played on many organizations' supply chain, right? And then that's causing a lot of disruption in terms of how you can get the product, how you flow the product, and how you sell the product, okay? So that's kind of really what I'm seeing throughout the past 2 years, and even today, what are the key challenge we've been facing as a supply chain professional, okay? So then if you look at the learnings that you learn, or the lessons that you learn from COVID, and then now if you really came out, okay, what do you need to do differently, right? So I can really from the side, the view of the both retail view, but also the CPG view, as I work with many organizations at the Walmart, and then for my role at the Casper, when I'm managing all the global sourcing and everything. So really from the both view as a retailer, but also as the manufacturer. So I think there's a couple of 5 things that you really need to really rethinking or re-engineer yourself, how you need to do to really mitigate your risk. Because if you don't do this, and then we all know that the history a lot of times can repeat itself, right? So when you have a pandemic can really knock out the world for almost 2 years now, there will be a high possibility it's going to happen in the future again, right? So if you don't really change your mindset and change the way how you manage the supply chain, you will get into the same issues, and it's not going to be interruption, but it's going to be a disruption, right? So you need to really looking for what I feel is really 5 key things that you need to really change, and also need to really transform yourself to be able to prepare yourself for the next pandemic or something, right? So first one I call is really the assortment planning, army assortment planning. Many organizations, if you are a manufacturer, you sell the product into different channels, right? So you can be a direct D2C company, you can sell online and sell direct to your end consumer, but a lot of other companies also go sell the product through the traditional channel, mass retailer, whole house, warehouse channel, wholesale channel like or club channel like a Costco or Sam's Club. Or you can go to the convenience store, drug channel like Walgreens and the CVS. So, but I would say that most companies now, that they sell the product into different channel. You can do in the D2C, you can sell to there's a wholesale retail channel, which is Walmart, Target, etc. And then you can also have your own retail store. But regardless of which channel you sell, you need to really determine how you plan your product. That's what I call is really assortment planning, but it's really came down to SKU segmentation. Because of when a pandemic hit like this, and you will have the manufacturing capacity constraint, then you need to really make a quick move to determine, okay, which product I'm going to produce, because you want to maximize your production capability. Then you need to determine, hey, which item I'm going to sell and which item I'm going to really stop selling because I can maximize your throughput. So SKU segmentation became so important. And the traditional way how everybody understand when you're doing the SKU segmentation, you're probably talking about, hey, ABC segmentation. A means, okay, 20% of a SKU owns 80% of a sales, right? But this way of a segmentation is very cumbersome. It's very difficult to manage because it's not truly reflect how you sell into different channels, because of the new way, especially on the e-com side, on the army side, you need to create a different way of how you segment the SKUs. What we've been doing at the Walmart and at other D2C companies is really how you use a transaction frequency to determine, and it's much, much easier to implement, and you reduce a lot of complexity. So we're now really using a way of how you segment the SKU is really based on the frequency of a transaction. It's not average. It's really, you count how many transactions you have. So now you call an item called a daily item, you call it a weekly item, you call a monthly item, you call it a quarterly item. It really depends on the frequency of a transaction, how people buying this item at what the frequency. And this is not average, okay? And then and one example that when I work for Walmart, and when the pandemic hit, and we look at all, because we carry over 3,000 different SKUs from P&G. Then now we need to determine, okay, what are those the daily items that we have to buy? And then we ask, hey, we're going to stop carrying all those tail SKUs. Let's also come to the second point. It's head and the tail SKUs. And then we're asking a lot of our suppliers to really drop on the tail SKU, focus on the head SKUs, right? Because if you look at the bounty paper, I want to make sure that we have a bounty paper, not worry about those items, or those long tail SKU that you only sell like 1 unit every month, right? So we want them to really focus on the head SKU so they can maximize the throughput and then can get the product out very, very quickly, right? So segmentation, head and the tail SKU came all together to determine that how you can really change your manufacturing process and capacity to maximize your throughput when something happens to impact your capacity. So you need to be very, very good in terms of, I call it really the simulation tool that you can use to simulate what's the maximum throughput you can generate based on your segmentation and your SKU, the way how you manufacture the SKUs. And then obviously the channel strategy is really, because an item sell in the store can be totally different from online, because the packaging can be different. Because if you look at the product you sell in the store, we always we ship everything in pallet from manufacturer to our warehouse, and then cross-dock in our warehouse and then to the store. But then when you have a product sell online, whenever we receive the product into our fulfillment center, we always have to break down into each, because whenever we fulfill the customer order, we have to pick by each, we have to ship in the package. So the packaging, how you can really design your packaging to be totally different than the traditional brick and the store model is very, very different, because I need to be easily to unpack and then really be able to pick by each. And one example is really chocolate, right? So that can be a huge, huge implication in terms of how you're going to design and then manufacture the product. So channel is very, very important. Depends on how you want to target which channel you can sell the product. So let's really from the assortment planning perspective. Then really the next one, oh, I'm sorry, this is not the new, somehow it's old version. So this should be a product design, not the product produced. It's really how you design the product. Designing the product means I came from a manufacturing background in my early career, and I actually led a project at the Whirlpool. It's really how you can break down a product like a washer or dryer into different modules. Because originally when you manufacture a washer or a dryer, we have to sort over thousands of different components: a wire, electronic components, screw, nail, everything. But then we can't really change from sourcing at a component level to actually at the module level. And then we look at our entire global manufacturing footprint to decide, okay, I'm going to produce, there's a blower or a console in Mexico, or actually the console in China, and then a blower in Mexico because it's heavy, it's bulky. So when you change your product design into a modularity, it's very, very easy that you can optimize your manufacturing footprint, but also determine which plant is going to produce which module. And then when you bring different module into the final destination, say into the US market, and then you can do a final assemble to be very, very close to customer. Because shipping on a module is much, much more cost efficient compared you to ship an entire washer or driver from Brazil, because at that time we have a factory in Brazil produce the driver, produce the washer, and then ship to US, and then the freight cost is so expensive. So now when you break all the product into different module, and with the density and the shipping cost is much, much lower. And then when you're doing the final assembly in US, and the labor cost is much, much lower compared to the freight cost that you have to spend. So you definitely can achieve the cost saving, right? So you need to now, especially with the global, with the pandemic happening, every country has been recovering in different space, in different speed, right? Some country has been recover all your production much faster than the other country. And I think China has been controlled the pandemic been very, very well, because whenever they have one case, they literally lock down the entire building or entire city, right? So they actually control. They try to control in a way that they want to. It's not like the entire population gonna get immunity, right? So that's, I think, a little different approach. So you can see different countries have a different recovery pace. So then when you really look at the design of product, when you have a modularity design, then you can really, really reduce the risk that you can be single producer in one country or with one supplier. And you can outsource the modular much, much easier, but then also protect your IP, right? And then the second one I want to talk about really about the packaging. So this is really related to how many channels that you can sell, because as I mentioned, that a lot of companies now sell into different channels with e-commerce, with your wholesale account, which is like Walmart, Target, but then also your own retail stores, right? Like Away, we sell online, but we also now have our own retail store as well. So the packaging can be totally different, depends on how you sell to different channels. Say, if you P&G, when we sell to the retail store, everything is really flow into a full pallet and then a master case, right? You don't need to really break it down into the single row. But if you look at and then you look at the product we sell in the store, the minimum is really, I think it's a 6 row of a bounty paper. But online, you do have a single row that we sell. So because online, you can have unlimited shelf space, right? Not like in the store, you have a space constraint. So you only want to pick the most, the highest volume item on the shelf, because you need to meet a certain threshold to be able to generate certain sale, to be able to, for us to sell in the store. But online, you have unlimited, right? Obviously. And our warehouse that can carry over 600,000 SKUs fulfillment center for the online assortment. So then you need to be really the way how you design the packaging. And the P&G just came up with those can ship along in one container. It's called ship in one container of a liquid. So now you no longer need the additional packaging when you ship out from our fulfillment center. Basically, it can ship on its own. And then which means a huge saving in terms of fulfillment costs, because you know that the packaging, which is a labor required, and then also the way how you package the product can heavily impact how much you need to pay UPS or FedEx for last mile deliver costs. So with this shipping in own container, then we no longer need additional packaging, and which is really save the labor, save the cost, but also last mile deliver costs. So that's really on the product design. It's how you can really design in modular, but then also how you design the packaging to be fit into different channel, which is very important. I want to take a quick pause to see any questions, or I should keep going, and then we save the question for the end.
Yeah, so let's see if we have any question or thoughts so far. probably, while we are waiting for a question from other attendees, I do have a couple of questions I'm just thinking of. So first of all, just for the slide, currently we are talking about, I have some general question about the channel design. So here, normally, if we have the same channel, if we think of the product design, or if we think of the assortment, we often consider, say, cannibalization.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have different products, and if you have different, you also mentioned we have different packaging approach.
Yeah.
Then in this case, a different kind of way to design or pack the product would affect some other design. So that's cannibalization. Now, after you consider the channels, things will be much, much more complicated because that's the additional dimension. So in the past, we only had the product design or packaging different design. Now we have a completely new dimension, and all this cannibalization could affect each other.
Yeah.
So my main question is, when you think of the assortment or the design or a packaging, any kind of model or any kind of consideration you ever had on cannibalization?
Yeah. Regardless of how you design the product, cannibalization always happens, right? But if you look at it today, and the people shop in different channels, obviously pandemic forced people to consolidate a lot of that trip. What I mean by that is that before pandemic, people may go to Walmart for grocery, and then you may go to different retailer or apparel to buy apparel, or you can shop in different channels for different purpose. But with the pandemic hit, regardless of what you do, you still need to buy grocery, you still need to eat, right? So that's why usually people still have to go to grocery store, and now they have to cut all the other trip and then to consolidate everything into Walmart. Okay, now even before I don't really buy apparel, now I buy apparel at the Walmart. But so that's what you call is a consolidation trip. If every customer is shopping in only one channel, then obviously you don't need cannibalization. But still, reality is people can shop into the club channel like a Costco or Walmart or Sam's Club, or this mass retailer channel like a Walmart, and then Target, or the traditional grocery supermarket like Kroger, Albertsons, Ahold. So because that's the customer choice, that's not something we can control. And I think every consumer packaging company or the manufacturer or retail, you have to really work. And this can be totally different than before. If you look at like 10 years ago, e-commerce is not that popular, and the people sometimes can be really difficult to share all this information. But now with the internet and with all this digital marketing, it's very, very easy for customers to really choose a different route in terms of shopping, and they know all these different options, and they became more demanding in terms of how retail can better serve their need. So it's not really just an option. You have to really adapt to what the customer really, really want, because they want a multiple way of the shopping, right? It's not something, okay, because cannibalization is something you always are going to be a side effect of how you create different packaging for different channels, but regardless, you have to do. And I can tell you, when a manufacturer can offer all these different options, they keep the customer need in the mind. It's actually eventually going to win the customer. What about the cannibalization? When you're doing this, it's actually going to cannibalize the sale from other, because again, if you sell to Costco or Sam's Club, obviously you make the least profit, right? Everybody knows, right? But because your package is much, much larger, I would rather sell into a supermarket channel, you have a higher margin. But that's not the choice you can make, because the choice is really in consumers' hand, and that's the way how they want to shop in different channels. So that's why you have to adapt it. Because if you don't really build something different packaging in for Costco or Sam's Club, then you're going to lose those customers, right? So I think the easy answer to you is really not a choice. It's a need how you have to adapt. And then if you do this well, then you can still sell into different channel, because usually a customer have their preferred channel to shop, and then you can still capture a larger share of a customer base, and which means that you can still generate a sale growth, because you now capture a larger customer base.
Yeah, thank you very much, Charles, for your clarification. So actually, why I was asking this question, because first of all, I can understand if we offer Omni supply chain, definitely it is quite resilient. If we have any issue with one channel, we could have some other channel to take over and still keep customers. But my main question or my main concern is, so sometimes if we compare a Omni supply chain or just the online supply chain, completely online.
Yeah.
So for most products, maybe online store, online shopping could be sufficient. And definitely for some items like clothing, some consumers need to go to store and have some try. But think of Amazon. Amazon has been very successful recent years, and basically it relies on online supply chain instead of a kind of omni supply chain. Maybe Amazon is thinking of to work with something like UPS or whatever. You can return to local store or whatever, to consider different kind of channel. But overall, the main store is just online. So my main question is, if you consider the omni supply chain and just the completely online retailing and the two business model, then which way could save the company more money and still you can keep or serve most customers? So this is what I'm thinking of. In other words, is omni-channel necessary, or sometimes we don't have to worry about it?
Yeah, I would say that every company who doing it online, it's not profitable, other than Amazon at the scale. They're doing about $200 billion online, and with about 200 fulfillment centers across the country. And I can tell you that any retailer online business is burning the money, because you don't have a scale to build this. The last mile deliver cost is just kill you. It's just not profitable. Obviously, during pandemic, everybody increased the price. If you can really deliver, I'm gonna charge you, but still you are losing money. If you look at like Wayfair, very easy. They never make any money in their 10 years history, other than last year. If you look at their P&L, they make about $2 billion, because the inventory is short, everybody hijack the price. But if you look at the additional, they lose money every year. Obviously, it's gonna be changed maybe in potential, but let's count reality. So I would definitely say that, again, that's a preference, because we do a lot of this consumer study. Not everybody going to only shop online, because some users like go to the store to really want to touch and feel it, right? And not everything can be converted into online. Because I'm a heavy shopper, Amazon.com and Walmart.com, and I go to the store, and especially you call like apparel, people like to feel, try everything. But I would definitely say, if you look at prior to pandemic, the entire US retail landscape, you probably have a 10 to 15% sales generated online. And it depends on category. Some category penetrate higher and some category penetrate lower. But overall, if you look at about 15 to 20%, and majority really came from Amazon. But then during pandemic, the penetration definitely, pandemic accelerated online penetration. Now, at a point during pandemic, you're looking like 30, 35% overall. And then post-pandemic, we think it will continue to penetrate higher, but it's not going to go direct to 30 or 35%. It may go back to 25% in between prior to pandemic, and then during pandemic, maybe 20 to 25%. But the long term, if you look at 20 in 3 years or 5 years out, we definitely believe the online penetration will go to like 30 or 35%, no doubt, right? But still, the store will be a very, very important to part as a sale. Majority still, we think, okay, obviously it can change. It's going to be in the store. And if you look at like Amazon, why would Amazon build the Amazon Go? Because there's no way people can buy groceries, especially perishable, and they can make it profitable by delivering the same day on the perishable side of business. That's what they have to create. And Walmart, truly, Amazon doesn't have enough stores, but if you look at their footprint in terms of their fulfillment network, they have over 100 buildings. You can treat those like a dark store, right, or whatever it is. And that's why they try to increase a lot of distribution point across the country. And now they have Amazon Go. They can open up to do the grocery. And obviously they now use Whole Foods as a distribution point to deliver the product as well. So I would say to your question, it's going to be still going to be exist both way, store and online. But then users need to really how you can really build the network to really be able to support both business. Okay, great. So it's already like almost 40 minutes. So I'm going to quickly go through all the remaining, and then we can still leave some time for the Q&A. So if you learn the next, so all I try to look through here is really how you decide which product you're going to make, and then how you design the product, and then how you're going to source the product, and then how you flow the product, and then eventually the end-to-end visibility. Now, if you look at the global sourcing, it's really everybody can't really, as in previous slide, everybody has been running the supply chain so lean and try to reduce try to achieve the most efficiency, lowest cost. Then you don't really have a multiple supply because usually when you consolidate the volume, you can always achieve the lowest cost, right? But then it's definitely causing the problem. So now you need to revisit the global sourcing. And now, if you look at 2019, a container from China to US is only $2,000. Now it's at $20,000. Now you need to really revisit, hey, whether it makes sense to continue to produce the product in China. And I talked to many carriers, and the list is going to last for at least it can be next year, right? Or it can be longer, right? Now you need to really look at your total landed cost, including the new freight cost from Asian to US, and to determine, okay, whether it's going to be still make sense to produce in China or it's going to be in US, because now you also have much longer lead time. Usually a container came to US is 25 days. Now you're looking for 45 days and you still cannot get enough container, right? So now you need to take into account with this new freight cost, but also the longer lead time to determine whether you need to really build additional supplier from Europe, from Mexico, from Canada, or whatever it is, right? So you need to look at total, doing a new study in terms of total landed cost and to determine whether you can do the offshore manufacturing or you actually going to bring onshore, right? So I think that's something that you have to do item by item, SKU by SKU, and then even look at all the components to reduce your risk, okay? That's on the global sourcing. And then next is it really came down to product flow, how you flow the product. When I say this product flow is really flow the product from your manufacturing plant to, if you are D2C, obviously then flow the product into your fulfillment center and then you ship to the customer. Or if you distributed the product through the retailer, then you need to determine how you can really flow the product from your DC to Walmart's DC to Walmart store, and then to the consumer. And one example, just during the pandemic, so originally we buy a lot of product. We buy almost everything from our supplier into our distribution center, and then we cross-dock, and then we send to the stores. But then during the pandemic, to increase or to speed up the product to shelf, because everything is run out of stock if you shop in like May or April, April and May, pretty much everything run out of stock. If we want to really speed up the process, then we working with a lot of suppliers to really change how we flow the product. So if you look at it like a big bulky item, paper, baby diaper, all those, we just really flow directly, we call DSD, drop shipment, directly store deliver. We asking the vendor to deliver direct to the stores. And then we also working with a supplier to create a lot of, I call it a quantum tunnel. Basically, we're working with a P&G to create a shipping capability directly from their plant for our e-com orders. So we no longer really ship the product to our fulfillment center and then from fulfillment center ship to a customer. For those big bulky items, obviously you need to do a lot of analysis of what item makes sense. We don't do this for every single item, but for all those like a paper, big bulky diaper, you always ship alone. Now we create this called quantum tunnel. We can ship it directly from PNG plant and without the product really to shipping multiple ways with a multiple touch, right? And then the other thing is that you can do is also we convert a lot of a vendor and a supplier into this called DSV, drop ship vendor. So basically now whenever the customer places an order, we just give the order direct to the vendor, like big bulky furniture, everything, right? So they can ship directly from their warehouse, right? But obviously you need to be able to explore all this delivery model. But then if you look at from the last mile deliver, we can do, so originally we only have about several hundred stores, Walmart store can fulfill the online orders, but during the pandemic now, all of a sudden we open up like an entire store, literally several thousand stores that can be used to fulfill the online orders. And then in terms of last mile deliver, we now not only we can ship the product from the warehouse or the fulfillment center direct to the customer home, we can also ship from the stores. So a lot of orders that we can actually ship directly from the store to the customer. And then we also open up all this curbside pickup, right? You can order online, you can pick in the store, or we can ship from vendor. So now we open up a much more options for the customer who are going to be able to come pick up your order, curbside pickup. We can ship from the store, we can ship from the warehouse, which dramatically reduce the delivery speed to the customer, right? So that's what really referring to is really from the end-to-end perspective, how you can really flow the product more efficiently, but more also with a lower cost, okay? And then last is really about visibility, intelligence, and automation. And this is really, all this is really happening within every point of your supply chain. Is it happening within your factory, but it's also happening in your warehouse. It's also happening in your stores. If you look at the automation, we have implemented a lot of the automation in the warehouse. We have on-demand packaging machine, depends on how many items that you order. And we will, at the end of the conveyor belt, our on-demand packaging machine can package on demand. So before that, we have, like say, we have to procure 6 of a standard shipping package, right? With Walmart logo on it. It's a small, medium, large, extra large. But still, it's because either you're going to be wait a lot of space for some order, or you still not, you have to create it's called split shipment. Basically, there's no box can fit all your product. Then we have to create 2 different boxes, which is really waste of a lot of money. But with this on-demand packaging machine, basically you really create a package to be able to fit all the product, but with the least space, and which is going to reduce your cost. And the other automation technology, we're doing all is like picking, retrieving system, especially on the grocery side, right? And then we're working a lot with this automation company to really design the entire warehouse layout, so we can really achieve. So if you look at a typical person, every year I work like about several weeks in the fulfillment center, actually in every line, picking, packaging, everything. But a normal person, usually when you're doing the picking order, you probably can do about 120 orders. And I'm new, very inefficient. I'm probably doing like 80. But if you look at the automation or the auto retrieving and the packaging robot that we introduced, we can do several hundred orders every single hour, right? So obviously you need to go through your financial to understand whether this investment can be paid back in a certain amount a year, because that's going to be a huge capital investment. But then now you need to look at, okay, what's the throughput that you want to achieve? And now with all the labor shortage, it's definitely make a lot of sense to really be able to heavily automation and the robot that could do a lot of this work for you, right? That's on the automation piece. And then if you look on the intelligence, it's very, very important that now every company you need to be able to really predict if this is happening, what are you going to do? And with a lot of artificial intelligence and machine learning to predict where's the demand going to come from and from what channel. So really the predictivity is very, very important for you to be able to run the supply chain proactively to project what is going to be happening, but then also the capability for you to do a lot of the simulation. Hey, when this happens, I'm going to take this action. It's also very, very important. So artificial intelligence and the machine learning capability has been very, and we've been built all this demand planning and the sensing and even replenishment by using the AI as well as machine learning, because personalization is very, very important in retail, because ideally when you walk into our store, I want to know exactly what the product you're looking for. And then so I can create a personal promotion or offer for you. It's unique and it's targeted to each individual, not really talking about the mass promotion, but it's a really individual targeted promotion. It's called personalization. It's very, very important. It's all driven by AI and the machine learning to learn what your purchasing behavior, so we can predict what you will need. And then obviously the end-to-end visibility intelligence is very, very important. So every company now uses some kind of tool, try to bring all the trading patterns from your freight forwarders, from your 3PM, third-party manufacturers, and from your carriers all into one platform. So when you place a PO, you can see end-to-end what's the stage of this PO in terms of execution. And then the visibility is not just giving you the visibility, but also going to alert you when something is happening, right? So we are kind of in the process of really integrate everything. It's just an example with a weather report, right? Especially during the winter time. Whenever we see a hurricane, whenever we see a storm coming, and it will alert that, hey, the inventory allocation team, you need to allocate more inventory into those locations, right? So visibility itself want to give you, at least give you a good start in terms of how you can be more proactive in managing the inventory. But the action coming out of visibility is very, very important, how you truly stay agile and proactive to react to or proactive managing the supply chain based on different circumstances or situations. So visibility, intelligence, and automation is how you can really create a very, very personalized offer for your customer, but then also how you can be really proactive in terms of how you manage the customer expectation. Because if you look at today's need for a customer, they all want speed. Basically, I order now, I want to receive a product literally, I want like literally within 10 minutes, right? And then I always want the lowest cost. I don't want to pay anything more than I supposed to, because if you go to the store, if the product is less, even with some higher price, you probably just buy. But online, you can easily shopping around to determine which retailer offer the best price. And then you can easily switch between Walmart or Amazon because that's easy, right? So the price is always important. Then I also want to really, everything I want, you cannot run out of stock. So the in-stock requirement is much, much higher, because again, if you go to the store, if some item you want to buy is out of stock, you're probably gonna pick up a substitution, right? You don't want to really, hey, just, oh, I need this item, but it's out of stock. I just go leave the store and then empty hand. You can pick up something as a replacement item. But I can guarantee online, if you find this item is out of stock on Walmart.com, they can easily go to Amazon.com to see if it's available and then they can buy from that, right? So that's on the in stock. And then they also want to be easy to find the item, right? So that's how you really design to be able to really display the item with all the collected information, but also you need to be able to easy for the customer to find, and they can determine which way they're gonna shop in the store or online. So convenience, lowest price, always in stock, be able to easy to shop is really every customer really looking for right now. And then that's why you need to build all the visibility, intelligence, and also implement automation to improve your efficiency so you can really meet the consumer demand. Okay. So I think with that, this is probably my last slide, and then I'm gonna open up a question. We have about 10 minutes left. So you can ask any questions. I'll see how I can best answer your questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Charles. So everyone, any questions, you could just directly talk, or if you want, you can also use the chat box in Zoom, either way. So of course, because this is a very exciting talk, and I also have a couple more other questions, but I also want to see, anyone else has a question. Otherwise, I just first maybe ask my questions. So just now, Charles mentioned, like personalization. We can analyze the preference of everybody, and then we can know, what kind of layout online or whatever could attract them back again. So this kind of analysis definitely would be very much helpful. And this is mainly online. My question is, do you have any particular practice to do personalization for in-person, in-store customers? So definitely we cannot be that flexible in store, but sometimes depending on the scenario, say today, is a kind of maybe Thanksgiving or before Thanksgiving, or maybe we have like Labor Day, or depending on a particular day or season, do you have a kind of some kind of personalization in store?
Absolutely. So if especially for people shopping in the store, the personalization is very, very important. So basically, obviously, you use app to shop, right? And we know exactly what's your location. And then depends on, so one example is really depends on the store inventory. We have a very, very heavy inventory on one particular item. And we know that we're not gonna be able to sell through everything based on our timeline. And we know that based on the purchasing history of every person, then we can generate a personalized coupon or discount, say 5% off, $5 off, 15% off. So it's all driven by the real-time inventory we have in the store, as well as our AI tool to predict whether you can be like this item based on your purchasing history. So yes, the personalization is at the store level, but also tied to the real-time inventory situation we at the store level.
I see. Yeah, I did not do a project on this, but I heard some people told me about some relevant experience or practice. So that project was for a clothing store chain, basically for t-shirt or something like that. And then they put some monitor or just like RFID equipment to track the path of customers within the store. So normally when you arrive, you will take a cart or you will take a bag, shopping bag, and then they put some monitor in the cart or the bag, and then they will track your path. And then they will also track if you take any item, and if you go to fitting room, if you tried, or if you leave the item in the fitting room, or maybe you just check out this item, they just monitor. And then based on different customers' behavior, and then they analyze when what kind of item should be placed at in the front, or what item should be put at the back. And also they try something like when customers check out, then they would ask for like your email, and actually the email is used to uniquely identify the customer information, and then they can know the customer like age or or address or whatever, and then they can analyze what kind of customer prefer what kind of products, just like this. So it's a kind of personalization, I guess, for in-store customers.
Yeah, I think let's is really exactly. Let's really input about how you place the item in your shelf, because let's call it navigation. Yeah, usually, yeah, you can check out the machine and it will help you navigate through our aisle to determine where you want to go. And then usually we gather all this data to determine, oh, this item, this person actually spent a lot of time in this aisle. So then next time we can't really say, hey, we're going to give you a list coupon or list offer, because it's called personalization. Absolutely, you are right.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So, yeah, any other questions? Okay, then maybe I have one additional question regarding your first slide.
Okay.
Initially, when you talk about many supply chain issues were amplified by COVID-19, right? Amplified. So when you use the word amplified, right away my reaction was bullwhip effect.
Yeah.
Do you see any specific bullwhip effect here?
I would say definitely. But again, I don't know how to quantify it, obviously, but absolutely, because again, it's the supply chains are all interconnected, right? So when you have a problem with upstream, you're always going to cause the downstream impact. And just an example that now we're building the inventory because of the extended lead time because of capacity issues. So we build the inventory at our finished goods, but then the supplier also can build additional inventory. So then we have to be very, very transparent and say, hey, we're already building additional safety stock. You don't need to really adding additional lead time length, because otherwise everybody's lead time length, when you buy the product, the lead time can become 100 days, right? So I think that you need to be very, very transparent with your trading partner in terms of how you build all this component, all the lead time into your end-to-end supply chain, instead of just looking for different components.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, just now you mentioned a very important thing, the lead time. And
yes.
In supply chain, lead time actually is a big trouble. And, if we have a very short lead time, then we will face much less uncertainty. Absolutely. And then we do not have to hold much inventory because of the short lead time. So that's why maybe just now in the second slide, in the next slide, you talk about the offshore or onshore.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sometimes if we do onshore, maybe the lead time is shorter, then we will face less problem. Maybe less problem related to supply chain, because you have less uncertainty.
Absolutely. Originally, when you produce in China, it's all because of the cost advantage, right? Now if you look at if you are producing a $2 product, now the freight cost, so basically if the goods of your container, if less than $100,000 and you pay $20,000, then basically your 20% of your gross margin is already in freight cost. So you can easily calculate what's the threshold that you should bring the product in. Because that's why you got a lot of low value product they no longer going to be able to sell, because there's no way they can pay $20,000, 20% of your gross margin on the freight, and you can still make money, right? So that's, I think now you need to make a decision whether you can do onshore and offshore with this new information.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Very nice. So yeah, any other questions? Looks like, I just asked quite a few questions, and so. Any other questions? Oh yeah, Brian?
So you mentioned about the usage of artificial intelligence and using more and more technology to essentially predict consumer demand and whatnot. But then on the flip side, what steps would you be taking to ensure that these technology helps ensure that your supply chain is more secure, because you have issues such as a heavy reliance on electronics, and say a hurricane comes and pretty much knocks out power in a city, and you can't order your things online. How do you deal with something like that?
Yeah, again, if the supply chain software can solve all these problems, then I can tell you should not start the supply chain, because we're all gonna be out of job, right? I would say that all the tool is to give you the action, give you a recommendation or the insight that will help you take those actions. But again, so when you say that there's a hurricane hit or there's a snowstorm, they predict this information to present to you, hey, give you alert, this is happening. They still rely on, and they go more intelligent, they can tell you this is an action you should take, you should give more inventory to this location. And again, a lot of times they can automatically execute it, but still sometimes need a human being to make a decision, because it's really, supply chain is art and a science. It's not everything you can run the science. Sometimes it's also about the experience, right? So you still need to really be able, as a supply chain professional, you still need to take a lot of input and sometimes to make a right decision or action to really execute it. So that's kind of really my take, is really the tool will give you the visibility, also recommend the action you should take. And then eventually sometimes some you can probably let the robot do, but a lot of times the human being need to make a lot of decision what's the path you should take.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Any other questions? Oh yeah, Ray Ming.
Yes. Hi Charles. Hi Professor Chi. So I'm Ray Ming. So actually I graduated Rutgers in engineering school of industrial engineering. I'm currently working at PepsiCo and also in supply chain domain. So my question will be because I'm curious about your background, your career progressions. Because I see you have multiple roles during like Walmart and Walgreens. So my question will be, so do you have any advice for young professionals who started earlier in their career, like within work experiences like less than 3 to 5 years, and how to develop their supply chain career regarding some specific domains such as planning, transportation, manufacturing, procurement, and also in terms of the people management and project management, how to scale the career in the probably next 5 to 10 years. So because I believe you have a lot of experiences in continuing to develop your career from entry-level position. So can you give us more insight about how to develop the career based on our experiences and different years of?
Sure. Yeah, I would say the best is really learn as much as you can, and always be open-minded, be very, very open-minded, and then cross-functional. Don't just constrain about yourself. Hey, I'm in supply chain, I only learn supply chain. Be more exposed, building your network. And also I think an open mind is very, very important, and learn as much as you can, because you never know that what will come next. So I think the only advice I can tell is really always open-minded and learn, because nobody can force you to learn other than yourself, and you own your own career.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Charles, for the great comment. And so, I understand Charles has another appointment very shortly. So, we really appreciate his time and the great talk to us. And thank you very much, Charles. And
no problem. Yeah. Thank you so much. Nice meeting everyone. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. So, yeah, everyone, have a good night.